Let me ask you a question. What's the single most important thing an auditor actually creates? It's probably not what you think. See, it's not the final report. In this explainer, we're diving straight into Chapter 11 of the Financial Audit Manual to really get to grips with the true foundation of any audit, the documentation. We're going to explore how to create work papers that aren't just compliant, but are totally bulletproof.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to lock down the why, the whole purpose behind the paperwork. Then we'll unpack the very specific two-file system that keeps everything organized. After that, we'll get into what really separates good work from great work. And finally, we'll cover the super important rules about who owns these files and how to keep them secure. By the end, you'll have a crystal clear roadmap to mastering this whole process. All right, so why bother with all this paperwork? Before we get into the nuts and bolts of how to do it, we really have to master the why. Because, let's be honest, this isn't just about ticking boxes for compliance. It's about building a rock-solid foundation for the entire audit. So, let me ask again, what is an auditor's most important product? It's not the report itself. It's the documentation that supports every single word in that report. You've got to think of it as the proof, the complete story, and the ultimate defense of your work, all rolled into one.
Officially, we call this documentation working papers. And right away, Section 11.1.2 gives us the #1 rule. They must be complete in themselves. Now, what does that actually mean? It means someone with audit experience, but zero prior knowledge of your specific project, could pick up your files and understand exactly what you did, why you did it, and what you found. No questions asked.
So these papers are doing a lot of heavy lifting. They serve 5 really critical functions. They back up your final report, they prove you followed all the auditing standards, and they make supervision and review possible. But take a look at that last point. They also help plan the next audit. And that's the key takeaway here. Great documentation isn't just a record of what you did, it's a powerful tool that ensures quality today and makes you way more efficient tomorrow.
Okay, now that we've got the why down, let's jump into the how. The Department of the Auditor General of Pakistan, the DAGP, has a very specific, very strict method for organizing all this evidence. It's all about the two-file system.
So it's all split into 2 distinct files. First, you've got the Permanent Audit File, or PATH. Think of this like the entity's owner's manual. It holds all that foundational info that doesn't really change year to year. Then you have the Current Audit File, or CAF, which is more like the mechanic's logbook for this one specific audit. Getting this right is absolutely crucial. If you put a one-time analysis in the permanent file, you're just creating clutter for future teams. But if you bury a long-term contract in the current file, it could easily get missed next year.
And let's be crystal clear, this is not a suggestion. It's a strict rule that applies to every single DAGPOP audit. So why the rigidity? Well, it's all about consistency. This standard system makes reviews, team handovers, and future planning totally seamless. It's really the backbone of an efficient, high-quality audit operation.
So, we've got the right folders, but what are we actually putting inside them? I mean, a perfect filing system is pretty useless if the documents themselves are a complete mess. This next section is where we really define what quality looks like. It's what separates the amateur work from undeniable professionalism. This quote from the manual says it all, doesn't it? The working papers are the ultimate evidence of the quality of the auditor's work. Just let that sink in for a moment. There's nowhere to hide. Your competence, your diligence, your attention to detail, it is all right there on display in your documentation for everyone to see. We can actually boil down what quality means to the 3 C's. First, they have to be comprehensive. All your sources, conclusions, everything is in there. Second, they've got to be clear, neat, organized, and easy to read. And third, they must be concise, meaning they're stripped of all the clutter, like rough notes or early drafts. The ultimate test is pretty simple. Could another experienced auditor pick up this file and understand the entire audit without ever having to ask you a single question? Okay, we're on to our final section. So, you've created absolutely perfect documentation, but the job isn't over yet. These files are highly sensitive, and how you handle them is governed by some very strict rules of ownership and custody. Section 11.4 is completely unambiguous about this. These papers belong to the DAGP, not to you. They are strictly confidential, and access has to be tightly controlled. You can't just remove material or share it with a third party without specific authorization. The takeaway is simple. These aren't your personal notes. They are official, highly confidential records, and protecting them is one of your core professional duties. So, this is the final question I want you to ask yourself. When you close an audit file for the last time, does it tell a clear professional story that anyone can follow?
Or does it leave behind a confusing trail of breadcrumbs? The answer to that question? Well, that's the ultimate measure of your work as an auditor. Thanks for tuning in.